What's going on, my broskiis? My name is Toadskii, back again here to bring you guys yet another One Piece Treasure Cruise video, and today, here we have another Grand Party video, and of course, this is technically the pseudo-final day, as when you reach 12 wins, you don't need to play anymore, which is awesome, so that's our goal here today, and we're up against the first opponent, which is going to be using Roger as as their leader, should I say, and when we're going up against Roger, I'm going to trial out the Shanks Buggy once again this season, and honestly, I was relatively impressed with what happened here. This was a very interesting game though, because remember, like Shanks and Buggy, they're more of a defensive style GP burst skill, whereas Roger is super offensively focused. And because we're up against a very defensive team, and I'm using an offensive team with a defensive burst, we get in a really weird situation here, where in this first game, both players actually end up using both GP burst skills. So there are 4 burst skills that launch in this first game. I don't think I've ever seen it before. It's the first time I've ever come across it. Very, very bizarre. But essentially, for the rest of this match afterwards, there's no more burst skills, which is kind of crazy. So it really comes down to who has the better team. So first of which, as we said, using an offensive slasher team against the opponent's Dex team, I felt comfortable with that, considering that the opponent's team wasn't a very good Dex team, as it was, you know, it had cat and dog on it, and to be honest, in Grand Party, you shouldn't be using cat and dog. They're just not a very good combination. I mean, unless if, you know, you are building that team to go up against an opponent's quick team, then I can kind of understand that, but realistically, there are much better units you can be using on an offensive style Dex team, but then again, that's fine. I hope that more people are often using that, because it makes it easier to take on in terms of a defensive aspect for the opponent, much easier, you know, if we can go ahead and take on teams such as that. We move on to the second team, which was really scary, up against an Int team. Now, I was really unsure what I wanted to do here, whether I wanted to use my Free Spirit team or I wanted to use my my Psy team, but you know, I just came down to the fact that I know that the Free Spirit team is very, very good, and I felt confident. You know, I tested plenty of times in the past. Free Spirit should take down an Int team. So we actually get into another really close game here, actually, where we are able to luckily squeak out the victory, which is very, very good for us. But yeah, I absolutely love using the Free Spirit team, and I've noticed that just in normal Grand Party, a lot of people have been opting to utilize the Free Spirit team as their defensive team, and it's very, very annoying, because I do not like challenging opposing Free Spirit teams, because they are very difficult to take on. There's not a lot of teams out there that can comfortably handle what the Free Spirit team throws at them. You know, it's very, very tricky. So we end up taking down with the Free Spirit team against an opposing Int team. As I said, I really was contemplating whether or not I wanted to use my Psy team. I talked about it in yesterday's Grand Party video, but I've had a lot of failures, honestly. Not a lot of success through using Psy teams versus Int, and even vice versa. Even using my own Int teams against Psy, it seems like a 50-50 matchup, and I feel like the Free Spirit team gives me a little bit better odds than 50-50. So that's the reason why we decided to go with this strategy. Moving on now to the second game of the final day, and it's honestly relatively similar match to what we had previously, where we see an opposing Dex team at the front. Very interesting that this player decided to use V2 Mihawk on their team. Not a terrible option, I'll admit. It's not a bad option. It does have very, very low special CT, and Mihawk has a pretty wide range health cutting effect, so you can consistently cut the HP of the opposing team down so that your characters have a higher chance at knocking something out. However, I feel like Blackbeard is just better, because I feel like even though his special CT is a lot higher than Mihawk's, the net positive output that Blackbeard has is more positive than what Mihawk is capable of doing. Anyways, yeah, we end up using the slasher team. As I said, we're using Shanks and Buggy as our GP lead once again. The final match of this video is not going to be using Shanks, Buggy, or Roger, so definitely look forward to that. But once again, we have that same strategy. Whenever the opponent uses that Roger burst and we feel threatened, you know, we're going to go ahead and use that Shanks Buggy skill. You know, we did use it either in day 2 or day 3, where, you know, the opponent used their Roger GP burst, but it was already, like, it was too far gone. We were already going to get the win, and I opted to just save the Shanks Buggy burst. There was literally no reason to use it, and that's definitely nice, because whenever you use the burst skill of Shanks Buggy, it actually does do damage, and because of the way that these skills work between Roger and Shanks Buggy opposing each other, if the opponent uses the Roger burst and then you use the Shank's Buggy burst, Shank's Buggy does 2,000 fixed damage to all enemies. If they've got 5 characters on the field, that's 10,000 damage that goes back into the second burst skill of Roger, so they actually get further ahead, and you can find yourself in a situation where the opponent uses their GP burst skill and you don't have Shank's Buggy to counter it, and that can get real sketchy. But anyways, we actually are in a point now with this match where the second team is also hidden, and we opted to go with Free Spirit against the opposing squad just because I wasn't really too sure what it was going to be, and I felt like if I'm going to use anything against a blank team, we're going to try out this Free Spirit team, and I saw it was this really annoying striker team. And as I touched up on a little bit earlier on in this video, we're discussing it in the first game, there's not a lot that really opposes the Free Spirit team, but this is one of those teams that does, which is going to be this really pesky striker team, and I do not know how we survived some of these hits, honestly. It got super close, really down to the wire, but somehow we were able to squeak out another victory, which is very good for us. Otherwise, we would have had to have been in a really odd situation. I think it would have been a Psy team versus a Psy team, and it's not the best matchup, honestly. Again, relatively 50-50, depending on who gets to launch their specials in what order and the positioning of characters. Again, super RNG focused. But luckily, as I said, we're able to use the Free Spirit team to somehow squeak out a victory against the very scary health cut fixed damage striker focused team. Alright, so now we're going to move on to the final game. So this is to get the full max rewards, 12 out of 12, and we're using Sanji as our GP leader. I originally had all my teams set, but I still had Shank's Buggy as my lead, and I realized that like there was literally no reason to use Shank's Buggy because we're up against a Roger Whitebeard leader this time. I don't actually go up against many Roger Whitebeard leaders. I typically like to avoid them because just Roger Whitebeard is a scary character in general. However, in this instance here, the other ones that I had to go up against were like super scary. I didn't want to go up against those characters either, but we're up against a quick team that I saw first, and that I knew that, you know, versus quick, most of the time that should be an instant win with Dex. Felt comfortable with that, which was great. So we have this Dex team, we handled the quick team relatively comfortably, and then that takes us into the second game where it is going to be up against a blind opponent, but we are going to have the Sanji burst skill, which is kind of nice. And I completely, like halfway through this game, I literally forgot what Sanji did. I knew that he did fixed damage, but I couldn't even remember the other effects. But I knew that fixed damage was going to come in super clutch, and you guys will see when we get into game 2, that Sanji burst is so critical to enabling us to basically get a free win there, because the blank team that my opponent ends up using is actually an int-driven team. And I think I was using my slashes at the time, which obviously is a little scary, int-driven versus slashes. It literally could go either way depending on specials and stuff. But luckily for us, when we use this Sanji burst skill in this second game, what ends up happening is we knock out Gecko Moria with the burst skill alone. So that's a huge positive, and we're able to luckily squeak out that victory against the opponent, which gives us the max rewards, 12 out of 12. So I am not going to be uploading a video tomorrow with Grand Party. I am done. I am not touching it until next season. So at the end of this video here as well, there's the clip of me getting my limited pool ticket, so you guys will go ahead and see that. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, and if you guys did, make sure to go ahead and leave a like, and if you want to stay up to date with all the content I post, including more One Piece Treasure Cruise content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. Other than that, guys, I'll see you guys within the next video.